The fire has gone to embers. Just a soft orange glow now, nestled in ash. You wake before the sun does, because that's what the cold does, doesn't it? It seeps into your bones and nudges you gently from sleep. You listen. You pull the furs tighter around your shoulders. They smell like smoke and musk and old pine. A distant howl, nothing too near, maybe fox, maybe wind. Orange, then gold. You hear the birds begin to stir low whistles, feathered rustlings in the brush. And behind you someone groans awake. Another day begins. The baby beside you shifts with a soft grunt, not quite waking. Across the shelter, just a hollow under stone, patched with branches, and hide you hear someone cough. One of the older women. Her chest has sounded thick for days. You sit up slowly, careful not to jostle the little one. Your knees are wet from the grass. The morning's moisture has settled in every crease of your clothes. You've done this thousands of times. And the rhythm of it is almost comforting. You always do. The sun is your clock. The hunger in your belly is your guide. The way to twist a cord from dry nettle. A careful crack that splits bone to release marrow. You show her. You don't think about the time. When it gnaws hard enough, you pause to eat what you've gathered or been given a slice of dried meat, a handful of nuts. You shape tools while humming to yourself. You remember stories while digging up tubers? Sometimes, in the hush of a quiet moment, you notice how calloused your hands have become, but strong, capable. You know where the dry wood hides under old trees. It's about caring for others in 100 quiet, skilled ways that no one sings songs about, but they should. You know how to wrap food in leaves and bury it in cool soil to last longer. It's not written down, but it's remembered, practiced, passed on. Not much different from the hands of people thousands of years from now shaping dough, changing diapers, scrubbing dishes, planting gardens. You learn from the older ones, and now you teach. It is how knowledge survives. You breathe in, and it tastes of earth and soot and stone. The weight in your palm, the roughness of the grinding stone beneath. Someone has brought back a bird, and it will be shared tonight. You'll help pluck it later, carefully, saving the feathers for stuffing or for trade. Nothing goes to waste. If you've ever shaped dough or plucked wild berries, you're not so different from us. It's not glamorous, but it feeds the group. And that means something. Now it sits near the fire pit holding water, and clung to your eyelashes. You blink it away and move quietly. The air bites at your arms, damp, metallic. There will be the same quiet effort that holds the group together, and you will do your part. You always do. Consider leaving a comment about what part of ancient life you'd find hardest or most peaceful. The kind of morning that promises frost, even if you can't see it yet. The work shifts with need, not with rules carved in stone. When the group needs meat, many help. When the group needs healing, many care, and fire to hollow it. Every time you see it, there's a flicker of pride. Not grand, not loud, just the satisfaction of making something that lasts longer than a day. Outside, the world is still sleeping trees hunched low, rocks dressed in moss, the stream stiff with ice around the edges. Your fingers know what to feel for, even in dim light roots that give a little under pressure. Berries that are just ripe enough, leaves that sting and so must be avoided. Others begin with grinding, but they all begin with your hands. The forest is not wild to you. It is a woven fabric of signs and sounds. A rustle means a hare. A crackle might be danger or someone like you, foraging nearby. This is when you think best. Before the noise, before the movement, before the children argue or the hunters return or someone burns the roots again, you tend the embers with a stick, coaxing the flames gently to life. Not too fast, you don't want to waste the kindling. It's hard to find dry stuff this season. The light grows slowly. You don't know what it will bring, but there will be walking. There will be work. Sometimes you carry a spear too. Sometimes the older boys help with roots and traps, building, feeding, nurturing. Before we go further, if you're already feeling the firelight flicker in your imagination, some days begin with gathering. You crouch beside a low shrub, plucking small fruit into a sling you've looped at your hip. The sun has shifted. There's laughter near the fire now. Later, back in the clearing, you sit on a flat rock and press seeds with a stone. A younger girl watches you and asks a question not with words, not really, but with a tilt of the head. Later, you scrape hide. Soften it with fat and work it until it won't crack in the cold. You once helped carve a bowl from wood. It took weeks. Using only a flint blade, there is no separation between work and life here. You gather while watching your children. And no, this is not a world where men hunt and women do everything else. Still, you know your patterns. You know the paths to the berry patches. And all this effort, it's not just about surviving. It's about preparing. You stretch your back. Your hands rest for a moment on your knees, stained with dirt, ash, berry juice, and blood. It's easy to forget how much of human survival rested in hands like ours. They cling to you, don't they? Tiny fingers wrapping around strands of your hair, small feet treading beside yours over root and stone. Children in this life are not separate from your days. They are part of every step, every task. You carry one on your hip, another tied to your back, a third tugging at your tunic hem, and still you gather. Still you move forward. You teach without teaching. You point to the red berries and shake your head. They recognize the call of a morning dove and the crash of a branch under heavy footsteps, to recognize the cry of danger. But every day, in the way you move, choose, explain, and comfort, you are shaping futures. Let me know in the comments what wisdom you'd pass down. It casts long shadows across the walls of the shelter, flickering over skin, stone, and fur. You sit close, your legs crossed beneath you, the warmth licking at your knees. The day's work is done. Your hands are tired, but not in pain. It is a good tired. The silence before a storm. There's no word for a friend here, not as you might know it later. There are only those who stay and those who drift. You hold it in your palm. It's heavy for its size. You don't know who made it. Maybe it was passed to your group from another, or maybe someone made it in grief and gave it away so they wouldn't have to keep looking at it. No words, just the weight of presence. It's enough. The ones who share the fire, who hold your children when you're too tired to stand, who bring you water when you bleed. They are your people? You tell her softly, because we are meant to leave space for the ones who come after us. She nods like she understands, but her eyes say otherwise. Still, she accepts it, your mother. The sister who bled too long after childbirth. The friend who wandered off in snow and never returned. The older ones are half dreaming. You listen to the wind shift outside, the fire sighing low. Someone sharpens a tool softly in the corner, the scrape rhythmic and slow. You see them in the way others sit, speak, sing, echoes, gentle like the call of a bird. And for a moment, everyone is still, listening, shadows, the meaning in the flight of birds. Everyone helped feed him mashed tubers, chewed roots, thin broth from bones. You stroke their hair, tracing the soft line of their brow, and listen. He calls you Mama now, though others correct him. You don't? You let him say it? There is watching. There is the silent promise that if something stirs in the night, others will wake too. You are not alone. It doesn't matter that you know the ending. The story lives because it is told. Because it has always been told. Because it will be told again. It curls around the group like smoke. Another voice joins, then another. It's not a song with words. Not yet. It's sound that rises from memory, like the wind through tall grass. About the man who spoke with wolves. About the time when the sun stopped rising until the people sang it back into the sky. Maybe it's from sorrow, maybe from joy. You've heard it sung at births. And you've heard it when someone was buried beneath the willow tree by the stream. Your grandmother gave me this, you whisper, and the child looks wide-eyed, as if the stone has changed shape. Maybe it has. Your world is full of signs, and you show them how to read it, day by day. The sky becomes your shared language. Bright sun means time to move. Shifting clouds might mean rain or snow. You can read the sky the way others one day read paper. You touch the soft leaves of the safe ones and nod. You mimic the sound of a predator-esque call and hush them with a finger to your lips. One is picking at the hem of your wrap, another is poking a beetle with fascination, and someone else is asking what happens to people when they die. You don't lie. You say the body goes to the ground. You say we remember them. You say we carry them with us even when they are not here. A girl asks how, and you say, by telling stories. They learn this way, slowly, through rhythm and repetition, through mistakes and patience, through love. The babies know the sound of the wind before they know words. The sky has changed. The wind has turned colder. You watch the clouds, their slow unfurling, their stubborn drift, and you know it's time to head back. The kids complain, but they follow. They trust your judgment because it saved them before. There's a little boy, not yours by blood, who follows you often. His mother died in childbirth. When you sit down in the shade to rest, the children gather around you. You hold a smooth stone in your hand and press it into the dirt. Later, you all look up. Life here is not safe, but it is guided, not chaotic, but deeply patterned. The children learn to feel these rhythms. You don't think of yourself as a teacher. What would you teach your child first if the world outside your shelter was filled with both berries and bears? The fire is alive tonight. Not wild, not fierce, but steady, breathing in soft hisses and snaps. Others gather around you. Some are family by blood, most by bond. Someone begins to hum a slow, low note, barely a melody. A child crawls into your lap, already half asleep. Someone across the fire tells a story. An old one, about the woman who followed the stars to find her sister. You've heard it all before, but still you watch their hands move in the firelight. Still you laugh at the same part. Still you hold your breath when the sister gets lost in the fog. After the story, someone passes around a small carved figure antler, smoothed by time. You think of those who are gone. You always do when the fire is low. Someone places a hand on your shoulder. Later, when the fire is coals, a young girl asks you why people die. The group has quieted. The younger ones are asleep. You feel safe here, not because danger doesn't exist, it does, but because here, in this circle, there is knowing. You reach into your satchel and pull out a small bone flute. You don't play a tune, just a few rising notes. Maybe this is what keeps people going, not the food or the fire or the shelter, but this, the warmth of sound. The presence of others, the remembering. Imagine a story passed down 100 generations, still carried in a hum you might hear in the flames. What story would you carry forward? There are things we never speak aloud, but everyone knows. The red stain in the moss, the way you crouch by the stream a little longer, the cloth tucked quietly between your legs. Your first blood came one summer evening beneath the mulberry tree. You had felt strange for days, heavier, restless. And then there it was like a secret your body had been keeping from you. The other women noticed right away. Someone sat near the fire through the night, feeding it, watching the breathing of the one who ailed. If they lived, there would be thanks. If they didn't, the grief was carried in silence and lowered eyes in the gentle way people touched your arm. The baby came red and wrinkled and loud, and when you held it, everything else stopped. Just for a moment. Not from sadness, not entirely. Just from the weight of it all, the miracle and the terror. You cut cords with stone and soothed first cries with skin-to-skin warmth. You learned what herbs could stop bleeding, which moss to pack a wound with, which flowers meant danger. You learned to listen to the body when it said, enough. The suddenness of being both mother and child all over again. There were times when the blood didn't stop. When fever came like a shadow over the firelight, you buried them gently. You sang, you placed stones to remember, and then you kept going. But you gained something too, reverence. The younger women watched you now, asked your thoughts. You didn't speak more, but when you did, they listened, because they knew. You had walked through storms and bled under every moon. They gave you dried berries, hummed a song you only half understood. When your own cycle returned after months of nursing and you felt the old rhythm again, one gave you a necklace of tiny shells. You didn't know if it was for celebration or comfort. You chewed willow bark when it hurt too much, and sometimes a woman, always the same one, the one with the gray hair and eyes like wet bark, would make a paste from crushed root and spit and smear it over the wound. What healing secrets do you think we knew, lost to time? You carried so much knowledge you never named. Knowledge held not in books or scrolls, but in your muscles, your fingertips, your breath. It smelled sharp and bitter. It often worked. Perhaps both. You were not a child anymore, but not yet something else either, just a girl with sore hips and a wary smile. After that, your body became a thing you watched more closely. How it swelled, softened, surged. You noticed the tug deep in your belly when the moon was full. You noticed how your moods shifted with the tides. No one gave you a chart or a calendar. You had the sky. You had your body. You learned to trust its signals, even when they frightened you. No one said much about it beforehand. But when your time came, they were there. The older women, hands firm but kind. The younger ones watching from the edges, learning. The men stayed outside. Not out of fear, but respect. They understood that this was your space, your threshold. And there was pain too, not always, but often backs that ached, teeth that cracked, fingers burned on hot stones or split by splinters. When someone was sick, the whole group felt it. People moved more quietly. Then came childbirth. It hurt more than you thought it could, like being turned inside out, but there was singing and steam and strong hands pressing your hips. You bled for days. They gave you warm broth and soft roots, pressed herbs against your skin. One woman braided your hair while you wept. Later, you learned to do the same for others. You pressed hands, you whispered stories, you boiled water and wiped foreheads. Not everyone survived. There were good years too, when the berries were thick and the children grew strong. When no one coughed through the winter, you didn't think of yourself as a healer. But your hands had brought life, stopped bleeding, eased pain. And you aged slowly, lines came to your skin. Your hair thinned, your steps grew shorter. Even with no books or pills, our knowledge of the body came from lived experience. The hunters returned at dusk. You heard them before you saw them, low voices, the clatter of flint and bone, the dragging of something heavy over stone. You didn't rise to meet them. You stayed by the fire, feeding the flame, a child asleep against your leg. They dropped the carcass small deer. This time Ann stepped back while others gathered to skin and gut. Not because he hunts better or speaks louder, but because once, a winter ago, he found you crying behind the grove after your sister died and said nothing. He simply stood nearby, letting you grieve without asking anything. Since then, you've shared a sleeping space more often than not every night, just often. The way he lays your child down gently when he thinks no one is watching. In the meat set aside for you when food is scarce. In the blanket mended without asking. In the way someone holds your gaze a little longer when danger is near. There's no word for romance here, but there is love. You didn't cry. You had already learned that people come and go like seasons. But it stayed with you the way he smiled as he left, like he wasn't sure whether to say goodbye or not. What does a loving glance mean when tomorrow's never guaranteed? The animals were moving differently, fewer prints, more silence. Even the roots you dug yesterday came up pale and soft, like they'd stopped drawing from the soil. You helped. Of course you did. You always have. You've never said, "I love you." You've never needed to. Your feet blistered. She'd always liked their flowers. You covered her with stone and song and tears. Then you kept walking. The water tasted sweet again. You set up camp with tired hope. Your back ached. You missed the old camp, the curve of the shelter wall, the way the fire sounded in that space. You missed the woman you buried, the laughter she brought, the way she braided your hair in silence when grief made you quiet, but you kept going because there was no other choice. And when others faltered, you helped them walk again, because that's what you do. That's what you've always done. The group moved like a single animal, resting together, rising together, taking turns watching the dark. That it hurts because you have to grow new roots even while the old ones still tug. She was right. You gathered fresh shoots, tasted a bitterness you hadn't tasted since childhood. Life was happening again. This was not out of defiance. It was rhythm. Pattern. Everyone knew their part. When they entered the circle, the scent of blood and sweat arrived with them. Prehistoric women did that often, yet they kept walking. There is no ceremony, no priest, no necklace passed from hand to hand. Just the quiet agreement that you belong together for now. You would leave, not forever, but long enough. Cross the valley. Seek out richer ground. Maybe find the others who Dee passed through last spring and spoken of a forest that still hummed with life. She didn't want to die in an empty camp, she said. And so she walked until she couldn't, and then she slept and never woke. That you will feed each other, protect each other, watch each other's children. It is more than affection, it is survival. And you packed what you could carry and buried what you couldn't. A stone here, a bone there. A whispered goodbye beneath your breath. There are no suitcases here. Just memories and marks left behind. A man protective of a child who is not his. You've seen bonds dissolve, new ones form. It's not a world of promises etched in stone. It's a world of small gestures, of who brings you water when you're sick, who notices when your eyes are heavy. But affection grows in its own way. There's one among them you know better than the rest. You don't call it marriage. Sometimes there are arguments. Harsh words about food or fairness or who carries what. Tempers spark, especially when the hunt is thin or the weather cruel. Voices rise, bodies bristle, but nothing stays long. Resentment is a luxury no one can afford when the snow is coming. You've seen jealousy too, two women drawn to the same man. There are moments of joy too, a hand that lingers, a glance across the fire, laughter at a private joke. And love in this world is not declared, it is shown. You once shared a space with someone who moved to another group when food was better there. Now, years later, you sit beside someone new, you share children, you share silence. Partnership wasn't about fairy tales, but it wasn't void of feeling either. You felt it before anyone said a word. The way the trees grew quieter, the way the wind shifted, dry and strange. The food was running thin, the stream had slowed. Something in the earth had turned, and you all felt it. So the decision was maiden-spoken at first, then agreed to around the fire with nods and tired sighs. It wasn't easy, the children asked why. The old ones didn't speak. You walked for days. One night, under a swollen moon, someone died. She had been sick before the journey. You knew she wouldn't make it far, but she insisted on coming. You buried her where the land dipped near a cluster of hawthorn trees. The new place wasn't perfect, but it was better. The roots were thicker. The animals left signs. And still, even in this place, life asked more of you. There were nights the cold crept in. There were days when your legs felt hollow, your hands too heavy to lift. But you also laughed again. One evening, someone told a joke so foolish the entire camp erupted. You saw children chase one another in new grass. You remembered your mother once saying that moving doesn't just take your body, it takes your heart too. Still, you survived. You adapted. You mourned in your way, with silence and songs and work. Have you ever said goodbye to a place you loved, knowing you might never return? The years pass and we do not stay. The camps shift, the rivers change, and children who once clung to your leg now carry baskets of their own. You've left so many places behind caves dark, with soot, meadows where you once gave birth, ash circles where songs rose into the sky. But even as your feet move on, something of you always lingers. Take the grinding stone. You found it near a slope once, a flat slab nestled into the earth. It fit your hand perfectly. You spent seasons pressing seeds into powder there, day after day, until a shallow hollow grew beneath your palm. The stone was quiet, but it remembered you. Even now, if someone were to find it, they might feel the curve worn smooth by your labor. Not all were hunters who painted. Sometimes you pressed your palm to the stone, dipped a stick in color. They won't see the scar on your thumb from slicing too close while stripping bark, or the line between your brows that deepened when the food ran low. But maybe they'll see the care and the placement of your dead, the symmetry of the hearth, the layers of shell and soil that suggest a gathering, a meal, a memory, and trace the curves of beasts not because you needed them, but because you'd seen them and remembering mattered. The smear of color across a wall, the way bones are curled, not scattered. It's what we do with our hands and what we pass to others without needing to speak. A herd passing under moonlight. A stag that stood still as a statue before bounding away. Moments frozen in pigment and silence. Will they feel a tug like a thread connecting them to you? Will they sense the warmth of a fire you tended? In the way we tell stories even without knowing why? In how we care for the sick, in how we love, how we grieve, how we survive. Will they look at a smooth stone and imagine your hands? Something ancient in the ache to belong, the need to make meaning, but your mind still remembers how to scan a crowd for danger. But some part of you still listens for the rhythm of the drum, still quiets when the fire crackles, still feels awe at a sky full of stars. Your heart still quickens when a loved one is missing, the ache for home, the urge to protect. The lullaby hummed without thought. The way you reach for someone in the dark, just to know they're still there. The old ways stitched into new lives. Your body still knows how to carry, how to hold, how to endure, and a baby at her breast helped make the world you live in. Her fingerprints are on everything, and you, strange and modern as you are her echo. The deep knowing that we are not meant to do this life alone, her strength, her songs, all unwritten, undocumented, uncelebrated, but real. The one who knew which bark boiled into tea could ease a fever, who carried sorrow and strength in the same breath. Her world was not our world, but her instincts still live inside us. You don't rise with the cold wind or tuck embers under ash to keep them alive till morning, and can tell it might rain, even if the forecast says otherwise. You feel it when you sit with someone in grief, not offering answers, only presence. Or when you sing softly, not because anyone taught you the tune, but because it hums up from somewhere deep and old. There is no smoke in your hair, no hide wrapped around your shoulders, no child slung across your back while you wade through grass taller than your head. What she passed from voice to ear, from hand to hand, over centuries, fire to ember, ember to flame, over and over again, and yet you are still her. They might wonder who you were, what your name was, what you loved, what you lost, that you paused in your work one evening and made something just, but names don't last in stone. Only echoes do. There were the shells you strung for your daughter's ankle, clacking as she ran. You shaped them with a thorn, smoothed them on river rock. You left them behind when she outgrew them, but someone might find them one day, buried in silt, and wonder if they were meant for ceremony or play. You'd smile, perhaps, knowing they were meant for both. And yet, somehow, you're still here. In beads, in broken tools, in buried hips and teeth and kneecaps that someone, somewhere, may dig from the earth and cradle like secrets. Some of you remains in the red streaks across cave walls paint made from crushed ochre and spit. You wonder if anyone will know that a woman's hand made those marks. That your fingers touched that wall, the baskets you wove, they've long crumbled. The plant fibers don't last. The net you knotted, gone. The lullabies, lost to wind. They won't know what your laugh sounded like, or how you once danced in the rain just to make your daughter giggle. Legacy, it seems, isn't always loud. It's the shallow groove in a stone. You think sometimes of those far ahead thousands of years away who might stumble on the things you left? What would you hope someone 30,000 years from now would find of you? What would tell your story? You don't gather roots anymore. You feel it sometimes in the way your hands move when you braid hair, or the way you watch the clouds. She is there, the woman who once crouched beside a stream and pressed her fingers into wet clay, the quiet inheritance. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, but it's there in the way we seek each other around fires even now, even on screens. There is something ancient in the way we touch another person's hand and feel comfort. She gave us that. Not just through her blood passed down in spirals and strands, but through her choices, her patience. You don't sleep on dirt anymore. Your shelter is not of sticks or stone. You've forgotten much. The names of plants, the cycles of stars, the stories told in smoke, and that is enough. Because legacy is not just in stone tools or grave goods. It's in the invisible. She lives in you, not because of her DNA, but because of what she kept alive. We often imagine progress as moving forward. But sometimes wisdom is what we carry with us, the fire in our chest. So if you feel small, remember this: a woman 30,000 years ago, with dirt on her knees, still here, still singing, still human, still part of a story that began long before names. And if you're still with me, thank you. I hope you feel just a little closer to the long thread of humanity that binds us all. Don't forget to subscribe if this brought you peace. I'd love to hear what moments stayed with you. Sleep well, traveler. You're not alone.